Roy Charles Amara, an American researcher, scientist, and well-known institute head. In addition to all this, what made him famous not only in America but also around the world was his idea known as Amara's Law. Amara himself expresses this law in one sentence. According to this law, we overestimate the power and effects of technology for a short period of time, while we underestimate the power of technology for a long period of time. Although this sentence of Amara seems simple and ordinary, it actually brought a different perspective not only to the technological field, but also to business and the economy. Now, let's look together at Amara's Law and its importance in business and economics. In the first part of our video, we mentioned the essence of Amara's Law in Amara's own words. Now, let's use some examples to understand the idea that the sentence is trying to convey. Simply put, according to Amara's Law, we expect a lot of good to come from anything new in technology. But with the passage of time, because we don't get the result we want, our expectations gradually decrease. In fact, most technologies and innovations can fail in a short period of time. This is actually expected and normal. For example, let's talk about the Internet, its short-term and long-term effects. The Internet was actually invented in 1983, but if we ask our parents or relatives who lived in the 80s and 90s, they probably won't be able to tell us much about the Internet. They may not even know that the Internet existed at that time. Because although the Internet was invented in the 80s, it began to gain popularity much later, after the 2000s. As you can see, new technology starts to develop after some time, not the moment it was discovered. Most likely, by the 1990s, people had already begun to believe that the Internet was a useless invention because they underestimated the long-term effects of the technology. Or let's talk about airplanes as another example. When airplanes were first invented, it never occurred to people that one day airplanes could be used internationally for passengers or cargo transportation. Because most people expected it to happen in a year or two. If people's expectations were not met in the first year, then they thought that the invention was useless. Amara's Law wants to focus on a point that most people forget about innovation. This is an adaptation process. Like all innovations, technologies need a certain amount of time, that is, adaptation period, to see their benefits. For example, let's talk again about how the Internet gained popularity after a certain period of time. The reason the Internet failed in the beginning was the lack of sufficient investment in this area. For example, in the 1990s, companies were not yet developed enough to deal with the Internet. There wasn't enough investment to build Internet transmitters and lines. Thus, after some time in the 90s, especially after the 2000s, the number of investments made to meet the demand for the Internet increased over time. Fertile conditions were created for Internet equipment, and businesses as well as people began to use the Internet more. This process is the same for other technologies as well as innovations. Sequentially speaking, the first is the introduction and use of the innovation. The second is the adaptation period, and the last stage is obtaining the expected result. Amara's Law is not only designed for technology but also for other innovations. This may be a new idea. Applying Amara's Law in business can also be beneficial for entrepreneurs. Because according to this law, a person who invests in a certain area or wants to create his own brand should wait patiently for the results without getting discouraged. If a person wants to create his own brand and assumes that he'll be on the top in a few months, that person's not aware of Amara's Law. Because according to the law, a new product must successfully pass the adaptation period before being branded and gaining influence in the market. Only then can that person become a brand and meet expectations. In another example, you can see the application of Amara's Law in a newly opened YouTube channel. When the channel is newly opened, it's necessary to accept as normal that the numbers of viewers will be small and grow slowly in the first few months. Because those first months are the adaptation period of the YouTube channel, after the adaptation period, if the channel is considered useful, the number of followers will begin to grow even faster. Because the adaptation process of this innovation, that is the YouTube channel, has already been completed. So in conclusion, the main purpose of this video is to introduce Amara's Law and explain the essence of this law and how it affects business and other areas. As you can see from the examples, giving time to innovation and waiting for results without rushing is the main takeaway from Amara's Law. Has Amara's Law ever affected your work or your life? Share your thoughts or your story in the comments section of the video. Thanks for watching.